But is that really the Jesus of the Bible? These are some images that we've created over time about Jesus and what he looks like. They're supposed to be on the screen, or are they? No. They're pictures of Jesus. Kind of a pleasant Jesus. A Jesus with a nice complexion, nice face. A Jesus that would do well in Hollywood. A Jesus that any one of us would come to and think are drawn to. There's an attraction to. A Jesus that can sit with the lion and the lamb and just, it's all good. But is that the Jesus? Some people had gone back in trying to be able to estimate, if you will, what Jesus really looked like. Look back into not only the characteristics of the Jewish people, but also those in that who were raised and born in the area of Bethlehem, descendants. And they tried to come back and much like a criminologist would try to put together an image of what someone would look like. They put together, based on that, what they thought maybe a person or a man of Jesus' time who lived and was raised and born of Jesus' culture would look like. And this is the picture they came up with. Is that the Jesus you think of when you want to picture Jesus in your head? Isaiah 53:2 said this, again the prophet Isaiah, he grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. That's the Jesus. More importantly, the Jesus of the Bible was a Jesus that was radical, a Jesus that would shake things up, a Jesus that made more people upset than he made people feel better. To the extent that a Jesus that by causing all that commotion led people to crucify him. That's the Jesus of the Bible. And so I want to spend some time these next several weeks. We're going to look at what it means to have this Jesus among us, to live with God with us, and what that presence really is like in our own life. And so turn with me to Luke 8. Luke 8 is a story of what, referring to Jesus' experience with the demon-possessed man. And as you're looking at that story, I want to take a moment because this whole idea of the presence of Jesus is sometimes hard to really even grasp because we know that, well, he lived 2,000 years ago. So how am I supposed to be able to understand his presence now? How am I to see him and to experience him in my own life in a tangible way when I know that physically I don't see him? He's in the room, two or more are gathered, he's here, but where is he? Well, to give you a little bit of an idea of how we are able to see him, it comes in the things that how we enter him into our lives on a day-to-day basis. Being here today is an opportunity to make, as Scott had alluded to in the beginning, it's more of he's always here, but it's the awareness of him. So coming together and worshiping through the songs, through the message, through just being together is an opportunity where you experience the presence of Jesus. Prayer is an opportunity to experience the presence of Jesus. Bible study together is an opportunity. Devotions in your life is an opportunity. As parents, even as we're thinking of this, I just want to encourage us as parents that our kids are going to be raised and they're going to follow something. God has not only instructed us, but we ourselves, when we raise them, have made that kind of commitment that we are going to expose them to Jesus. And so as parents, we always have to stop back and ask ourselves, in what way am I making Jesus real in their life? Am I bringing him to church? I commend all of you here for bringing him. Are we doing devotions? Am I talking about him in the way that we do? When we face life's challenges and difficulties, is Jesus a part of that conversation? Your kids will never know him through you unless you bring Jesus into that and make them aware of him in your own life as you share the stories and the struggles and the difficulties in our life. Those are the ways in which we see Jesus. But maybe the message as we're going to listen is that presence of Jesus does impact us in some way. It's not just a cute story, but there's an effect that takes place on us. And so we're going to look at that. In this particular story, in this particular scene, Jesus and the disciples had just crossed the lake. And in crossing this story, this is actually the story, if you have the Bible open even, where when they were crossing, Jesus was resting, and then a storm came, and it's a story where Jesus woke up and he calmed the sea. And in verse 25 of that story, in their amazement, it says this, in fear and amazement they asked one another, this is the disciples now, who is this? He commands even the wind and the water, and they obey him. Even the presence of Jesus just rocks their world in the way that they see him at work. This is the Jesus that's being described. And then upon arriving at land, they're immediately met by this demon-possessed man. And so we're going to pick up the story right there in verse 26 of Luke 8. This is what we read. They sailed to the region of Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want from me, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torture me." For Jesus had commanded the evil spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, "because many demons have gone into him." A legion in Roman times was anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 soldiers. So if you have an idea of legion being, in comparison, that many demons were within him. And they begged him repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs were feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into them. He gave them permission. And when the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed to the steep bank in the lake and were drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and reported it in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got in the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over the town how much Jesus had done for him. And then if you were to follow in the story, Jesus got back in the boat and they went back to the other side again. So how is it in this particular story, as we talk about God being with us in the presence of Jesus, how is it that this presence of Jesus impacts lives? Or how is it for us to be able to see Jesus in our own life, how it has an impact in us and what kind of a role it plays? Well, first of all, from this story, we see that the presence of Jesus exposes the truth of our condition. In this story, it says, until Jesus had arrived, no one really knew exactly what the man, obviously the guy was crazy. Obviously something was going on in his life, and they couldn't really control it, and they're trying to do it. They made an effort to control it. They said they'd put a guard on him. They'd chain him. That's all they could do, is try to control their situation. Sometimes like us, when life is overwhelming or it's chaos and it's crazy, our reaction is to try to control it, to do our best to be able to put it in chains, hold on to it, to try to be able to maintain it. But they couldn't. Immediately when Jesus arrived there, this hidden agenda of evil was exposed. We read in the story here that immediately the demons acknowledged right away who Jesus was. They called him Son of the Most High God. I find it interesting because they just answered the disciples' question just a little while ago.